Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are looking at something that, honestly, it stopped me in my tracks when I first opened the file.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's this document that creates this really specific and, kind of hilarious juxtaposition.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
You know how when we usually talk about health and safety, we're thinking about like construction sites?
Right. High-vis vests, hard hats, liability forms.
Exactly, avoiding lawsuits, all that stuff. But today, we're looking at a health and safety manual for a spiritual ceremony.
Hmm.
We're diving into a document called the Into the Wow Ceremony Protocol. And I have to say, it reads less like some mystic scroll, you know?
And more like what?
More like the informed consent form you have to sign before you go skydiving.
That is the perfect analogy.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a fascinating document because it tries to bridge two worlds that just don't normally talk to each other.
Right.
The world of, clinical, rigorous safety protocols and the world of ecstatic, mystical experience. The goal here is to reach a state of wow,
Hence the name.
hence the name, a state of awe, of transcendence. But the path to get there is laid out with this incredibly specific, almost physiological precision.
So our mission today is to unpack this protocol. We're going to walk through the ceremony step by physiological step, from the opening fire to the final dance.
Mhm.
But I think more importantly, I want to figure out why the author believes you need such rigid rules to experience true freedom. Because, usually rules just kill the vibe.
And I think that why is the most interesting place to start. Because this document, it didn't just appear out of nowhere. It comes from a place of deep caution.
Yeah, the backstory mentioned in the intro caught my eye immediately. The author describes meeting a Native American elder years ago.
Yes, and this meeting seems to be the catalyst for the whole protocol. The author recounts getting a very stern warning from this elder.
And the advice was?
Simple, but heavy.
Hmm?
Never, ever participate in a ritual if you don't fully understand the intention or if you don't trust the person running it.
Which is just solid advice, but it also highlights a real problem in modern spirituality, doesn't it?
Totally.
There's all this pressure to just trust the universe or go with the flow, but if you don't know where the flow is going, that can actually be pretty dangerous.
Precisely. The elder's point was that when you open yourself up spiritually, through dance, meditation, breath work, you're making yourself vulnerable.
You're dropping your defenses.
Exactly. And if the container isn't safe, or if the facilitator has some hidden agenda, you can get hurt.
Yeah.
So this document, it's the author's answer to that warning. It's a transparency tool.
It's basically saying, here's the roadmap, nothing is hidden, there's no trip being laid on you.
I love that phrase, laying a trip.
It's very 70s, right? But it captures that fear of psychological manipulation perfectly.
It does. And this leads to the core philosophy of the text. The author argues that the reason so many modern secular rituals feel barren or
Cringeworthy.
yeah, or even manipulative is because the participants are holding back. They're acting as detached observers.
Oh, I relate to that so hard. Standing at the back of the room, arms crossed, half participating, but mostly thinking, okay, what are these weirdos doing?
Is this cultural appropriation? Am I doing it right? Do I look stupid?
All of that.
Exactly. And that internal monologue is the enemy of the ritual. The text argues that you can't experience the magic if you are analyzing it in real time.
It's like trying to enjoy a movie while you're critiquing the lighting.
Yeah. You're not in the movie, you're just inspecting it.
So the protocol is a deal. It's saying, do all your analyzing now, read this 14-page document, tear it apart, judge it, but once you step through that door, the analysis has to stop.
So the participation can start. That's the health and safety trade-off. Safety comes from knowing what's going to happen so your brain can stop scanning for threats.
Okay, so let's test that safety belt. Let's walk through the actual ceremony. It starts with fire, but not in the kumbaya campfire way I expected.
No, this is one of the most counterintuitive parts of the whole protocol.
How
It starts with the candle ritual, but the text is very, very specific.
so?
Before you light the candle to invite light or goodness, the group has to stop and contemplate darkness.
Now, that is interesting because in a lot of New Age spaces, there's such a heavy emphasis on high vibes only.
Right. Leave your negativity at the door.
Good vibes only.
And the author argues that's exactly why those rituals feel ungrounded and unreal. If you ignore the darkness, you're just living in a fantasy.
So what do?
The protocol instructs the group to spend a solid moment acknowledging pain, suffering, illness, and loss, both their own personal struggles and, the suffering of the world at large.
So you have to look the darkness in the eye first.
You have to. The text says suffering is part of life. If you don't acknowledge that, the ritual is fake. It's just toxic positivity.
So it's only after sitting with that heaviness?
Feeling the weight of it, yeah. Only then is the candle lit.
So the act of lighting the candle becomes a conscious response? A choice?
Right. It frames the light as an act of defiance or resilience in the face of darkness, not a denial that darkness exists. It just anchors the whole thing in reality.
Okay, so we've set the mental stage, we've acknowledged the dark, we've lit the candle, and now the protocol shifts gears completely. We move from the mind to the body.
And there's a great line in the text about this.
What's that?
When the body is stiff, the dance is half-hearted.
I love that. So this is where we get into the physiology of it all.
Yep. And this is where the protocol aspect really shines. The author is adamant that you can't just jump into an ecstatic experience cold. You need to prep the vessel.
And the first step of prepping the vessel is breath.
Yes. The group lies on the floor for about 15 minutes of guided breathing. And the text describes a technique that is essentially identical to the Wim Hof method.
Okay, let's break that down for anyone who might not have tried this, because it's not just relaxing and taking deep breaths, right? This is active work.
Oh, very active.
Yeah.
It involves deep, rhythmic, circular breathing. You're hyperoxygenating the system. You do that for a few rounds.
Getting the blood fully saturated.
And this is the key. You exhale fully and hold your breath out.
That retention phase. I've done this, and it's wild. When you hold your breath with empty lungs after all that, you can hold it for a surprisingly long time.
A very long time.
And I remember thinking, why am I not panicking? And then everything just goes quiet.
That quietness is exactly what the protocol is chasing. The source material calls it a rare quality of listening.
So what's happening physiologically?
Well, you've altered the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in your blood. It quiets the monkey mind. That frontal cortex activity just sort of dampens a bit.
The text mentions that people often hear their own heartbeat for the first time in that silence.
It turns the attention inward. It's a hard reset for the nervous system. The text claims it induces a naturally altered, expanded state of awareness. But for the ritual, its job is to stop you from thinking about your grocery list.
It forces presence. You literally can't worry about your 401k when you're focusing on not breathing.
Exactly. It pulls you out of chronic thinking and into acute feeling.
Okay, so you're on the floor, you're high on oxygen, you're hearing your own heartbeat, you're fully in your body. What's next?
Now we have to move. But again, this isn't like follow the leader choreography. This section is about somatic release, specifically the shaking.
Shaking. Okay. This is something that I feel like we as adults have a really hard time with. If I saw someone just standing in a room shaking, I'd probably think something was wrong.
Right. It feels silly. It feels like a tantrum. It breaks a massive social taboo. We're taught from childhood to sit still, stop fidgeting, pull yourself together. But the protocol references modern somatic psychology here, specifically the work of giants like Peter Levine and Gabor Mate.
Right. Peter Levine's work is all about how wild animals deal with stress so differently than humans.
The document uses that exact analogy. It notes that shaking is a natural regulatory behavior in the animal kingdom. If a gazelle survives a lion chase, it doesn't just go back to grazing.
What does it do?
Once it's safe, it will literally shake uncontrollably for a few minutes.
It's discharging the adrenaline.
It's completing the stress cycle.
Yeah.
Humans. We tend to suppress that. We get yelled at by our boss, which is our modern lion chase. And we don't shake. We just stiffen up. We'll hold it in our shoulders, our jaws, our hips.
And the text argues that you can't just think your way out of that.
No. Cognition can't always resolve it. You have to physically discharge it from the tissues.
So this part of the ceremony is basically giving grown adults permission to act like that gazelle, to just vibrate.
Yes. The participants are guided to shake, tap, rotate their joints. But the text is very clear on one thing. This does not aim to become a yoga class.
Meaning it's not about how it looks. It's not about aesthetics.
Exactly. It's not about hitting a pose or looking graceful. It's a transition from stillness to expression. It's about clearing out the gunk so that emotions can begin to move.
Okay, so we've acknowledged the darkness in the mind. We've hyperoxygenated with the breath. We've shaken out the trauma in the body. The vessel is prepped. Now we sing.
And this brings us to the water ritual.
Right. And this is where the protocol gets very specific about its worldview and, honestly, where it asks for the biggest leap of faith.
A huge leap. So the participants place water in the center of the room.
And the belief here is that water isn't just H2O.
Not at all.
Mhm.
The text asserts that water is alive. It claims water carries memory and is structurally influenced by intention and sound.
So, like that idea that if you project hate into water, the crystals look different than if you project love.
That's the one. So the group gathers around this water and sings into it.
To infuse it with positivity.
Yes, to infuse it with positivity, to vibrate the body, and to energize the throat chakra. Using the voice to, as the text puts it, speak worlds into existence.
Okay, now we have to pause here. Because after they sing into the water, they drink it, often sharing the same cups. And the document makes some claims here that I think it's fair to say go directly against the grain of the last few years of global health messaging.
It absolutely does. And when we deep dive into this, we have to look at what the text actually says. Because it defines safety in a way that is radically different from, say, the CDC.
It explicitly mentions viral contagion, doesn't it?
It does. And this is a direct quote from the source. It claims that the idea of viral contagion has been, in the author's words, debunked in recent years.
That is a bold statement. Debunked.
It is a very bold statement. And just to be clear, we are simply reporting what the source document says here to understand their logic.
Right.
The protocol argues that exposing our energy fields to others, and specifically to the bacteria of other people, actually enhances the community of microorganisms that we are.
So instead of social distancing, it's arguing for bacterial communion.
Essentially, yes. The source's view is that diversity of microorganisms is a good thing. It goes on to say that physical touch, hugging, and sharing objects protects people more than fearing infection does.
So it frames the focus on germ theory as a kind of neurosis that actually makes us weaker?
That's it exactly. It's a fascinating clash of worldviews. You have the medical model, where safety means sterility and isolation.
And then you have this holistic or tribal model where safety means connection and exposure to the group's biology.
That's a brilliant way to put it. For this protocol, isolation is the danger. Connection, even at a microbial level, is the cure.
It really reinforces how this is a countercultural document. It's asking you to unlearn a lot of societal programming.
Step by step. Don't suppress your shaking. Don't ignore the darkness, and don't fear your neighbor's germs. It's stripping away modern defense mechanisms to get you back to something more primal.
Okay. So everyone has had their water. The energy is high. We finally reached the climax, the dance.
The into the wow moment.
And the text defines awe in a really beautiful way. It says awe is the moment where mystery and aliveness overwhelm language.
I love that definition. When you just can't speak because the experience is too big. That's the goal.
So what does this dance actually look like? Is it a rave? Is it ballet?
It seems to be whatever you want it to be. And this is crucial. The source emphasizes that across cultures, gods and goddesses are depicted dancing. Shiva, Dionysus.
It's seen as a sacred human expression.
Right. But, and this is the health and safety part again, the protocol is careful to remove the pressure to perform.
Because that's the fear, isn't it? I don't know how to dance. I look stupid. Everyone's watching me.
Exactly. The text explicitly states, awe does not require performance. You can dance energetically, you can shake, you can sway, you can literally just sit in the corner and be quiet.
It's the difference between dancing for an audience and dancing for yourself.
That's it. And think about the journey to get here. If you just said, okay, everyone, go wild at the beginning of the night, people would be so self-conscious. But because they've breathed together, shaken together, sung together, they're primed.
That's the paradox of ritual, isn't it? You build this very tight, rigid container so that the contents can be fluid and wild.
You need the safety belt to enjoy the roller coaster. That is the key takeaway. We tend to think that structure and spirituality are opposites.
That you have to be spontaneous and structureless.
But this source argues the complete opposite. That without a rigorous structure, you can't actually reach those heights. You're too busy worrying about safety to let go.
So the music fades, the dancing stops, the energy in the room must be intense. How do you close something like that down? You can't just turn on the lights and say, okay, thanks for coming.
No, that would be so jarring. The ceremony ends by closing the circle, returning to where we started. The candle ritual.
And there's strict rules for this part too, I'm guessing. It's not a free-for-all discussion.
Strictly not. The text invites brief sharing, but there are three main rules that really stood out to me.
Okay, what are they?
First, you have to speak from the I, only your personal experience. Second, you speak to the flame or the center, not to a specific person. And third, and this is the most critical one, No commentary on others' contributions.
Oh, that is so important. No, I totally agree with what Sarah said. Or let me offer you some advice, Bob.
Exactly.
Hmm.
No fixing, no coaching, no validating. The text treats speech as sacred here. The goal isn't to process the experience intellectually or to fix each other. It's just to witness.
It prevents the magic from leaking out, in a way. If you immediately start intellectualizing what someone else felt, you kind of kill it.
Precisely. The stated intention is that people leave uplifted, grounded, and connected. They want you to carry something beautiful back into the world.
It really is a journey. We started with a warning about safety, went through the darkness, hyperoxygenated, shook like animals, shared bacteria, danced, and then sat in silence.
It's quite a ride for a 14-page document.
Wow. It really is. And what sticks with me is this concept of the health and safety manual for the soul. It reframes the whole idea of protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Usually we think of protocols as boring things that stop us from having fun. But here, the protocol is the gateway to the fun.
That's it. Transparency creates the trust that allows for surrender. You can't surrender to a process you don't trust.
It makes me think about where else in our lives we might need a protocol like this. We often try to just wing it in high-stakes emotional situations, and then we wonder why we feel anxious.
Because we're trying to analyze and experience at the same time.
Exactly. So here's a thought for the listener to take with them. The author of this protocol argues that analyzing a ritual while it's happening ruins the magic. You have to do the thinking beforehand.
It's about separating the planning mind from the experiencing mind.
So, where else in your life are you killing the magic by overthinking it in real time? Are you analyzing your date while you're sitting across from them? Maybe the secret isn't to think less, but to do your thinking before you start. Set your own protocol, your own safety container, so that when the music begins, you're free to just dance.
Beautifully put.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.